Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's that time of year. Check the calendar. Header. It's March. Okay. You know what? I mean, college basketball, as well as, drunk Irish people. That's the only thing this month is known for. And as every year we've been doing for maybe the past 2, maybe 3 years, we're going to be doing our bracket picks again. No, this isn't a college basketball, even a sports channel at all. It's vast majority of it is gaming, but it's one of my favorite sporting events and just straight up events, basically of the year. So I always do one of these. As far as my kind of, I guess, background in college basketball, why you should listen to me. Really, I'm not a bracket expert. I'm not on CBS Sports telling you a bunch of, chalk brackets to pick. I'm not a bracket expert. I don't even think that exists really, which I guess is kind of more reason to listen to just everybody who has any clue about what they're talking about. But yeah, I'm not some correspondent for college basketball. I follow it, especially in March with the conference tournaments, March Madness, obviously, and before. But I also just casually watch college basketball and follow it throughout the year, especially since I am in college. My school's not in March Madness, but we're still in a very competitive and good, yeah, I guess, conference. So I get to see actually a good amount of these teams or teams that these teams have played in person or otherwise. So yeah, I've followed college basketball since I'm in college, actually probably closer than any other year of my life, probably. And then I always do a deep dive on the stats and the teams when it comes to March Madness. I always watch the conference tournaments as much as I can, and then kind of leading up. As I'm recording this, actually, I believe the first playing game between Howard and who are they playing? Wagner is about to come on. I predict Howard is going to win that, I assume, but they do have the guy who's been playing what college basketball since he was 26, since he was in 2016 or whatever. So I'd hope he could grab a win and get into the tournament. But yeah, without further ado here, let's just dive in here and kind of give you my predictions here. How I'm using these predictions, I'm not just going straight chalk, not doing random crazy shit. I'm just kind of using my base knowledge from watching these teams play, from looking at their stats, their records. I also, if we pop over to Excel here, I have a nifty little spreadsheet of a lot of the teams here, even down to this team like Wagner and stuff. We probably won't even get into the tournament, but regardless. And some stats you can find everywhere, just what seed they are, team, record, conference, are they champions of that? And that's for the tournament, not outright. Um, how many players score 10 points or more on their team, just to see how much elite like scoring power they have, I guess. Record versus tournament teams. So that's anybody in the tournament, including Wagner from UConn. How many points they score a game, rebounds a game, assists, turnovers a game, field goal percentage, free throw, 3 points. And then there's some Ken Palm stats you might recognize every year. Adjusted offense, adjusted defense, and I put strength of schedule, but it's really the adjusted efficiency is what it's called on Ken Palm, from what I remember. It's basically the strength of the teams they play as far as their adjusted defense and offense and how good they are for each team they play over the course of their season. So it gives you a decent look on how tough their schedule was, based off how good the other players were or other teams were. And, yeah, just threw it into a table, just something to reference. But yeah, we won't use that for every game. Some of these games are going to be pretty obvious, but just something to reference I've been looking into. As well as just deep dives in this team. So yeah, without wasting more fucking time here, let's get started here. It's gonna be a long fucking video. Okay, first of all, going to the east, we'll do round by round, region by region, or yeah, round, region, round. First round in every region, then move forward. UConn, UConn, weirdly enough, versus Stetson, great, great job getting here. I would say if Stetson had gotten another 1 seed, really, I mean, just looking at the 16 seeds here, they're probably either the second best or the best. I'd honestly say Montana State has probably struck me as the best 16 seed, just by like who they've played and kind of I like their team. But no, Stetson, their kind of MMO is they light it up. They shoot a shit ton of threes. Theoretically, they have a perfect game. They can win, especially if it was against a different one seed. But I mean, UConn, there's a reason they're the heavy favorites, both betting and just the number one overall seed in the tournament. They're a fantastic team. They're the Big East champions. They've got some of the best stats in college basketball. They've proven it versus a multitude of good teams in a very tough conference. I mean, the defending national champions, which a lot of people have as almost a knock to them, but regardless, they are the defending champions, which is impressive still. That they're again the number one seed. This team, they have elite talent. I mean, I could go on for hours about UConn. They're an amazing team. Of course, everybody in this tournament has losses to somebody, at least one or two. I remember James Madison having the best record, but I can't remember how many times they lost. But yeah, I mean, that happens. It's college basketball. But yeah, UConn shouldn't have any issues with Stetson. FAU and Northwestern for the 8-9 matchup. These matchups always kind of tough, given the seeding. Obviously, they're two very kind of somewhat competitive teams as far as skill net wise, or at least they're supposed to be. But FAU and Northwestern. FAU obviously kind of famous last year for the amazing Final Four run, which I mean they didn't have to face a one seed in the second round, but still a very good run to the Final Four and returning all of their starters this year. Um, did not win their conference tournament, nor did Northwestern. It's they've been very disappointing, FAU, from what people had expectations of them. Last year, obviously, they won a lot of games, got into tournaments, went to the Final Four, had a very good kind of, I guess, resume and expectations coming into next season with all their starters. They kind of they've just been inconsistent. They've just kind of been weird. They haven't lived up to the expectations that people had for them. Still managed to get into the tournament, obviously. Congratulations for that, but look worse than they were last year, um, and have not been playing like the team they were last year at all. On the other hand, Northwestern, again, not the greatest team in the tournament by any means, but a very competent team in a tougher conference in the Big Ten. I know Big Ten tends to sometimes struggle with the tournament sometimes, whether that's from beating up on each other or not. Sometimes that's what happens. But Northwestern, maybe it's just because I have a Big Ten bias, not because I go to a Big Ten school, but because that's what I grew up watching. That's what I watch a lot. Northwestern is a good team. They give a lot of very good teams some real problems. Obviously, have wins over like one seed Purdue, and a lot of other good wins within the Big Ten, and just beating Big Ten teams. Have some elite guard play. A very good team. Um, so me personally, I know FAU is probably going to be the more popular pick, and they're probably going to be maybe the favorites. But I'm picking Northwestern. Uh, I just I don't have a good feeling about this team this year's FAU, and I might get proven wrong. We'll see. Maybe they can make another run. Maybe UConn could implode from being the champions last year. They could make their same kind of run, at least to the Elite Eight here, Sweet 16. But I just don't see it this year. I think Northwestern's probably going to win. Next, we got 5-12, everybody's favorite upset line here, maybe other than 6-11. But 5-12, we got the San Diego State Aztecs, I believe, and the UAB Blazers. This is an interesting game. Actually, an incredibly popular upset pick. I don't know about bracket wise, but I saw on FanDuel's Instagram over maybe at or over 90% of the public's money is on UAB money line. Incredibly popular upset pick, at least betting wise, and I'd imagine tournament wise as well, given the seed line and everything, for UAB to beat San Diego State. Kind of an earlier start time, which again I feel like you don't really see a lot of upsets happen on like prime time night games for whatever reason. I don't know if that's a superstition and it actually affects anything at all, but that's just my maybe the good teams see all the good teams lose to a bad team early on. They lock in. It's like, oh fuck, we can't get embarrassed like that. So they come out and play better than they would. I don't know. Maybe it's just not at all relevant, but that's just my observations. But then, yeah, UAB, incredibly popular upset pick. They weren't supposed to actually be here. They won their conference tournaments, which let's check in on UAB. What was that? The American Conference won that 23-11. I believe they're 4 seed, only had to beat Temple in the championship game. 2-3 against tournament teams, which is okay, I guess, considering the seed line and the position they've been in this tournament. Overall, very bad defense, especially for the seed line. It's very out of character. Over 200, which really don't start getting into until you get into like the bottom seed levels. Okay, strength of schedule for who they are. Decent offense. San Diego State, though, I know they didn't win the Mountain West, even though they might have won it outright. I can't really remember. Um, 24-10, much more. This is an experienced team. One of the more experienced, even considering where they are in the like seed wise. 8-9 against tournament teams. I know it's a losing record, but that's still good experience to have coming into the tournament. 17 games against tournament teams is very good. I know it's because Mountain West, for whatever reason, this year got a ton of bids. Um, Deservingly or not, they did. But yeah, San Diego State, they've got stifling defense, a top 10 defense in the country, a very tough strength of schedule. Not an amazing offense for where they are, especially in their seed line, but it's serviceable, especially against a team like UAB, who doesn't really play any. Personally, that's for those reasons. I don't see San Diego State losing here. I'm taking them to advance. Also, I will say, just kind of getting all this preliminary stuff out of the middle, so it's taking forever to progress. I promise it'll go faster, but be wary of incredibly popular upset picks in the bracket. Um, it really just, for whatever reason, every year, whatever the team that has the most money on them in the betting books, or you turn on CBS Sports or NCAA March Madness Bracketology, whatever all the experts are saying, like, yeah, this team is going to upset. This is the upset team everyone's picking. This is Cinderella team everyone's picking. Not always, but try to tend away from those teams. Just because for whatever reason, those teams, maybe because of the extra pressure, maybe because its team feels disrespected for being picked against. I don't know why, but for whatever reason, those teams, they just have a tendency not to win. Even if they put up a good game, they have a tendency not to win usually. I always remember South Dakota State from a year or two ago. Amazing when they had Baylor Shireman. We'll get the credit in a bit, but amazing 3-point shooting team, amazing offense. People thought they were going to beat a questionable Providence team, but of course, probably the most popular upset pick in the bracket there, but of course, fell kind of flat. So yeah, this is my rant there. Next, 4 and 13, Auburn and Yale here. Auburn, a team I'm very big on here. Auburn, statistically speaking and analytically speaking, very good team. Also, just playing in a tough SEC this year. I know SEC is not a great defensive conference, but an amazing offensive conference. Very good team. It's got a very tough schedule against some very good teams. Yale, I know everyone likes to look at the Ivy Leagues. I'm not at all sold on Yale, other than the fact that they're from the Ivy League, which has more upsets than the normal league, I guess, normal conference. I mean, Yale shouldn't be here. It should really be Princeton. Struggled to win against Brown. Had a buzzer beater win against Brown, who was an awful team from the Ivy League. Not the worst team in the Ivy League, but pretty bad in every other consideration. I don't see Auburn losing there. I know going pretty chalky unless you consider 9/8 an upset. But if any bracket group is chalk, I'd say it's probably the East. This is probably not only probably the best division as far as or region as far as teams here and like the quality of teams, but just I mean, yeah, it's just the way it's lined up. If there's one region that's going to be chalky, which there usually is most of the time, it's going to be the East. Next, we got BYU and Duquesne. Even though that doesn't look like fucking Duquesne, I had to learn how to pronounce that, whatever. But no, I like BYU here. Duquesne, great story to get here. Love the program. Congratulations for making it. BYU is going to advance. BYU being slept on pretty hard and disrespected quite a bit. Duquesne, not impressed at all. Don't have a great resume. If you look here, one of the 11 seeds, where's Duquesne? Out of the A10, they won Dayton's division or conference. Obviously, people thought they were going to win, but no. 24-11, not a great record. Decent experience against tournament teams. Against some of that is Dayton. Not a lot of depth as far as scorers go. I mean, they've got a pretty bad offense, stifling defense, which is kind of what concerns me, especially with BYU's play style. But it's just I don't think they're going to be able. BYU is one of the most disrespected teams and slept on teams in the tournament. BYU, let's go back to the fucking spreadsheet just to cover BYU here. Big 12, first year in the Big 12. They do. I mean, I know it's 23-10. They lost double-digit games. 23 wins in the Big 12 is not something to turn up your nose at. 6-6 tournament versus tournament teams. They've got one of the better adjusted def or offenses in the league. Um, Amazing offense. A lot of points scored. They crash the boards pretty well. Assist. I mean, they shoot the 3-point a lot, which can always be a double-edged sword depending on how good you are at it. But no, I mean, BYU is a solid team. They've done very well this year with their transition. I mean, BYU is ready to go this year. Illinois State or Illinois versus Morehead State. Illinois, again, not taking the 3-14 here. Morehead State, I mean, I like the guys. I've seen them play a couple times. I enjoy watching them play. They're a fun group. Illinois, though, is just, I know Big Ten, Illinois doesn't usually do that well in the tournaments and everything, but they can make it at least a round. They're the Big Ten tournaments. They've obviously been in a great conference, got some amazing wins. I mean, Illinois, Morehead State, I mean, I can go back to the spreadsheet to keep proving my point here, but Morehead State really just hasn't done anything to convince me that they're really a threat at all here, even to a team that's sometimes fluky in March Madness. So yeah, we're going with Illinois. Drake and Washington State, probably one of the most contested 7-10 or just matchups in general in March Madness, the first round here. Drake and Washington State, two great teams, two winning teams. It was really hard to make a decision here. I went back and forth on who I thought was going to win, looking at analytics, looking at them play. I think Washington State is going to win here. I know a lot of people are taking Drake. A lot of people taking Drake to make it quite a bit of a run, actually, too. But Washington State will win. It's just I don't see a way. I mean, Drake is good. They win a lot. They're a solid basketball team. They obviously be a good Indiana State team who got snubbed. Just separate note. But they beat a good Indiana State team to get into the tournament in the general. Washington State though, they're a good team. They're coming from what was it, the Pac-12, I believe, right? I'm almost positive, but I want to check just to make sure I'm not crazy. Yeah. Pac-12, pretty good against tournament experienced teams. Unlike they got more experience than Drake does, even though four of those are losses compared to the ratio there. I mean, these teams, Washington State, are they a great team? Are they a blow your socks off team? No, not by any means. I think they're solid enough to get past a team like Drake, who mid-major team and popular upset pick coming off hot streak here to get into the tournament. I just don't see them getting in really, or I just don't see them beating Washington State. Washington has some impressive wins, a solid overall fundamental team. I trust Washington State to be able to. It's going to be a great game. I get it how I can see it going into overtime. For some reason, I trust Washington State to hold them off for a round. Next, 2v15. It's almost getting that this time where you got to pick a 2 seed every year or a 16 seed to win every year because last year was a 16 seed. The year before that it was St. Peter's. The year before that it was Oral Roberts. It's getting pretty crazy in March Madness in recent history. The year before that was that might have been COVID, but the year before that was Virginia, or maybe I can't remember how long ago that was. But it's getting pretty crazy that in recent history, a lot of these 16 Cs or these 15 Cs are winning to the point where you almost want to throw one in. Um, but I thought about that just perusing the tournament. Obviously, St. Peter's is back, but I don't know if a 15 seed is going to snag a dub this year. It's just I mean, it never looks like it any year, but I mean, this year especially. We're going to go Iowa State here. Iowa State, by far, probably one of the most disrespected teams of the bracket. People are having them, lose to Drake, lose to whoever comes out of this matchup, whichever one of these four teams. People aren't sold on Iowa State for whatever reason. Iowa State, great defensive team, coming out of probably the best conference in college basketball and winning the tournament. I'll say that. destroying what is an amazing Houston team. I mean, I don't understand why. Iowa State to me is a great team. I know obviously they've lost. They've had some losses. They're at times a bit questionable, but they've had some amazing bright spots. I think they lock in for the tournament, coming off a Big 12 conference tournament, championship. I'm always kind of, again, I'm not a Big 12 fan or don't go there or anything, but I love the Big 12. It's an amazing tournament that generally does, especially in the first round, generally does quite well in the tournament. Do we want to go to West or South? We'll go West. North Carolina versus Howard and Wagner, a game that's probably going on right now. I think Wagner's probably the worst team, maybe other than Grambling in this entire tournament. I expect Howard to win that game. Either of them are going to lose to North Carolina. North Carolina, don't think they should have even been a one seed, but again, a very good team. And the situation that they have here is actually pretty good. So we'll see how far they go. Great team though. Another 8-9 versus two teams I don't particularly care for in the tournament. Mississippi State obviously had a good run in the SEC and a good division. Same with Michigan State. They didn't really have that great of a run, really, but they're in a good tournament or a good conference as well. Michigan State a bit puzzling here to how they made it exactly, or how they are 9 seed especially, and not a playing game. Didn't really have a great resume, honestly. Had a lot of questionable losses or just losses in general, honestly. You can look at their record. Don't really trust Michigan State here. I know it's Izzo, it's March, it's a green blood, so to say, I guess. Um, a talented team. Mississippi State also not a team I particularly trust either. Good defense, which is unusual for the SEC, but still, a very tough team. I like Mississippi State. It was a real, it was a real toss-up to who I thought was going to win this game. Yeah, I deliberated about it for quite a while. Overall, though, I'm going Michigan State. Why I'm going Michigan State? I don't really care for or trust either of these teams. I think Michigan State's got a better offense while having a very solid defense still analytically and just watching them. They have a fairly competent defense to Mississippi State. Mississippi State goes on a drought for scoring generally. I think Michigan State can exacerbate that, or Michigan State can exacerbate that. And Michigan State has more offensive firepower on the other end. They have Izzo. I think this sets up for a kind of rivalry match in the second round, which they want. It just makes sense for Michigan State to snag something here. Okay, another 5v12, another popular upset here. St. Mary's and Grand Canyon. Love Grand Canyon, great team. Love watching them play. They're a fun group. Probably the best tournament team they've had, honestly, in their short tenure here with the tournament. That they made a lot. I don't know. It's just not the matchup I would have liked them to have. If they had a different 5 seed, we might be talking about a different situation here. But you can kind of see where I'm going with this. I'm going to choose St. Mary's to kind of hold strong here. I know it's really chalky. I don't think I've had a major upset yet. Well, I know it's chalky. It is what it is. St. Mary's, great, solid team here. Good defensive team, pretty good offensive team as well. Won the Western Conference both outright and tournaments this year, beating Gonzaga twice. Gonzaga obviously on a pretty big down year, especially by their standards, but still impressive. St. Mary's is just a fundamental team. I've tried picking against St. Mary's before; it just does not work usually. Um, their team, especially on mid-major, smaller teams, they don't show any fucking mercy. These guys don't play down to talent. I mean, anything can happen. It's March. Grand Canyon can have an amazing game and come out and beat these guys for sure. But odds are in the favor of St. Mary's, I think. I think this is a stifling game. I think St. Mary's feels a little disrespected too, but I think this is a game where St. Mary's kind of stifles Grand Canyon. Alabama and Charleston. Alabama, one of the best offenses in college basketball, probably the top 5. I can't remember where they're placed on Ken Palm or whatever, but amazing offense. Good conference side, obviously. Been a bit inconsistent here towards the end of the. Had some hiccups at the end of the season here. Got some good wins, obviously, as well on their resume. Bit fluky, as a lot of SEC teams you'll see are. Don't play much defense, as again is a common trend among SEC teams, especially the kind of top end ones for some reason. Alabama, though, Charleston's a lot of sneaky upsets picks here, but Alabama, I just don't see Charleston doing much. I've tried trusting Charleston before. It's never worked out for me. Charleston, a solid team, but you need more than to be a solid team to beat a team like Alabama. I think they're going to try to go, bucket for bucket, band for band with Alabama here, and that's just not what you want to do with Alabama. It's you don't want to play them at their own game here, and I think Alabama's just got too much talent to get knocked out by Charleston. Next, we got 6 seed Clemson, 11 seed New Mexico. First upset, finally, not just straight chalk the entire time like we've been doing. I'm going to be picking New Mexico here. Clemson for me, I just have bad feeling about this Clemson team. Clemson's never been that consistent of a team. They always have some weird losses on their resume that like you don't know what they're doing. They never seem like the most motivated team whenever you watch them play. Coming out of an ACC that apart from North Carolina really isn't that great. New Mexico is just playing outstanding ball recently. Obviously, they won their conference tournament in the Mountain West. Mountain West always been a bit of a fluky tournament or conference in March Madness when it comes to the actual bracket. But I think March Madness or this year Mountain West is a little better. New Mexico just got an amazing guard play, an amazing team. They've been playing amazing ball at the right time of year. They're coming in hot, unlike Clemson. I just think I think this is New Mexico's spot. I know this is a popular upset pick, what I said about popular upset picks, but still, I don't know. I think New Mexico. I don't trust Clemson. I don't like Clemson. Could they win this game? I think sure, but I think this is gonna be a close game. I think New Mexico pulls it off though. Next we have Baylor and Colgate. Colgate making the tournament for what was it, like 4 or 5 years in a fucking row now. Still have a couple of the original pieces that they had from the start of that run, surprisingly. Colgate, good team, very solid program, very trustworthy program as far as making the tournament in the Patriot League every year. Um, I just I've trusted Colgate too many times and watched this be the year. I don't pick them and they beat Baylor. Baylor obviously been upset in the tournament before, kind of fluky sometimes. But they're coming out of the Big 12. They've got a lot of talent. They're a great offensive team. I think they kind of just out compete or out talent Colgate. Colgate, I'm sure will give it a scare, especially for the first half. But I think Baylor ultimately wins. I just Colgate, I don't think they've never gotten it done for me before, and I'm kind of tired of trusting them. And if anything, this isn't their most talented team, so I don't know why they get it done this year against a pretty good and pretty slept on Baylor team. Nevada and the Dayton Flyers, I want to say. I can't remember what they're called. We're coming up against the Wolfpack here. I like Nevada, another upset here, the 10 over the 7. Nevada for me, obviously, kind of a bummer they didn't win the conference tournament. But I love Nevada. I think they're a very good basketball team. I think they've been playing good ball most of the year. And Dayton on the other side is a real head scratcher to say the least. Um, Obviously didn't win their conference tournament. That was Duquesne. Dayton, very talented team and supposedly a very good team on paper, but haven't really put anything together this entire season. I've been really, really, really inconsistent and weird all season. Haven't really done great. Have some All Americans, I can't remember which one of the 3 teams they were on, but have some All Americans. They're a talented squad. I just think Nevada is a more solid squad, and I trust them a lot more than I do Dayton. And I don't really care to play Russian roulette with these guys. Arizona and Long Beach State. I'll take Arizona. Long Beach State, love them. Great, great story there with their coach. But Arizona, you can't lose to a 15 seed 2 years in a row with two very good and talented teams. Obviously, got Caleb Love at the helm here, changing things up from their last year. Still a very talented team. Um, Again, it's not just superstition that they can't lose to a 15 seed twice. Arizona is probably the best offense in college basketball. They're the most explosive team I've really seen play all year. Do they have some moments where there's some head scratches of whether they're doing in the Pac-12? Yes, they have for sure. But I think they've turned it on for March. I think this year really could be a good year for them, and I think they definitely make it at least one round with the team that they have this year. Going on to the South region, Houston. I know they got fucking crushed by Iowa State coming into the tournament. Not exactly the most motivating thing, unless you take it that way, I guess. Um, Longwood, though, not a great team. Um, should they be in the 16th seed? I don't know, debatable. But Houston's going to crush them. Houston is a team you do not want to pick a big upset against, whether they've been in the Big 12 or what were they in the American or whatever before this, or the AAC. I can't remember. But Houston just crushes these shitty teams for whatever reason. I tried to pick an upset on them with Cleveland State one year. They beat them by like fucking 50. They don't play down to talent. They will stifle this team. They will crush this team. Even though I did see that there is a trend with teams having phallic names like St. Peter's, Oral, Roberts, and stuff. Longwood here, and them upsetting good seeds in recent history. But I don't buy into that. Next, we got Nebraska and Texas A&M. All these 8-9 games are actually pretty close. They could really go. I could go 4 for 4. I could go 0 for 4, and something in between. I have no clue really. All these teams are fairly competent and fairly competitive with each other. For me, I like Nebraska. Nebraska, they've got the Asian Steph Curry. I know they don't play amazing away from home. I mean, really, they play okay away from home. It's just that they play so fucking well at home that everything else looks horrible in comparison, really. Um, no, I like Nebraska. They've got a really solid team. They're going to snag a win when they get into the tournament. Got a great offense. Has some pretty good wins, and again, tough conference with the Big Ten. Not a usual Big Ten team, so I don't think they apply the same curse as the usual Big Ten teams do. But yeah, I think they get a win here over Texas A&M team, who admittedly is fairly solid and somewhat talented, but has just been really disappointing this entire year, really, and kind of inconsistent. I don't trust Texas A&M. I like Nebraska. They're a solid team, so we're going with that. This region right here, this four-group cluster here is a region I do not care for whatsoever. I really wish James Madison got another 5 seed. Had they gotten Gonzaga, had they even gotten St. Mary's. Wisconsin has been playing pretty good ball recently. They just recently came off a loss, obviously, to Illinois, but that's a good Illinois team. They played well. They beat Purdue recently. This is a solid team. A little disappointing. People thought, oh, this is a 2 seed team. This is a 1 seed team. This is a 3 seed team coming into the year. And they played like that at times where you've seen them beat Purdue, obviously, and stuff like that. But overall, a little disappointing to what they thought they were going to be, but still a very solid team. James Madison, on the other hand, I mean, let's go over to the spreadsheet on the 12 seeds here. 31-3, coming in with not only the best record in the tournament, but also the longest winning streak in the tournament, winning the Sun Belt Conference to get in. They are 3-0 against every tournament team they have played this year. Granted, is it the best tournament teams? Are they playing UConn? No, they're not. But 3-0 against tournament teams is still a good sign. Amazing offense, a lot of points put up. Obviously, you look at the strength of the schedule column there, suspect, especially, for a team a lot of people are picking as an upset. Again, popular upsets never are the most comfortable thing. But I mean, and there is a late start time here, but I couldn't not pick James Madison. I mean, they're such an underrated team. I don't think they should have even gotten the 12 seed. This is a great fucking college basketball program. They are a winning team. They know how to win, especially even against tournament teams. Wisconsin, a great team, a very solid team. This seems like a letdown of a year for them as a total, and I think it capitalizes with a letdown in the tournament. Duke and Vermont. Vermont, again, another one of these teams we've been in the tournament for every year. Everyone always wants them to win an upset. Sometimes they got in close, never actually succeeded. Duke, not a great team this year. Not to what their usual standard is of a 1 or 2 seed and dominating the ACC, along with North Carolina sometimes. But I was still picking Duke to advance here. Duke v. Duke matchup in the second round. Duke, an experienced and old team. I think Vermont, Not one of the more talented teams, and they've never been able to get it done in the past. Duke, obviously a blue blood. Blue bloods, say what you will about them, they're always good and experienced in tournament play. They're usually good for a win too. I have to take Duke here. Also, just I mean, Duke has the record and the stats to back up that as well. Texas Tech and NC State, a very interesting matchup. Had I mean, Texas. This is a bad draw for almost both of these. This is a weird matchup in my honest opinion here. Um, Texas Tech, Big 12 team. I know I like the Big 12. I've actually seen this team, Texas Tech, play in person versus my college. I've seen them play a couple other times throughout the Big 12 as well. Not a team I'm really sold on at all. NC State on the other end, not a very good team. Have played very poorly throughout the year, but have again got hot at the end of the year. Have made an absolutely fantastic run through the ACC tournament to even get here as an 11 seed with the auto bid. It's just this is I don't like either of these teams. Neither of these teams have showed me good things. Both of these teams have lost to bad teams as well. It's just a real it's a real head scratcher here. You almost want to choose NC State because of the momentum coming in, whereas Texas Tech is just kind of this team altogether. 9:40 start time. Again, I don't like that either for NC State regards. I mean, it's just a shitty matchup altogether. But honestly, I'm gonna go with NC State. Again, I just really don't trust this Texas. I know they're Big 12. Big 12 usually performs well. They've been, experienced. They're playing against good teams most of the time from good conferences. NC State is just hot right now. They're playing amazing ball. And I feel like this is an NC State team that just keeps it up for maybe a game and kind of almost like a Penn State from last year, coming out of a good conference still and just coming off that hot run, just does something. I don't know why. Texas Tech just is an team to me. I've seen them play in person. It's just not an impressive squad by any means. Kentucky and Oakland. Congratulations, Oakland, for making it. But Kentucky, I mean, talented team, very talented team. Even a draft, just talking about draft prospects here, but obviously they're blue blood. They've been here before. This ain't their first rodeo. I can't remember if this is Oakland's. I don't believe it is, but I'm going Kentucky here. I know everyone's concern is always let's go over to the spreadsheet. Let's get to the 3 seeds. Where's Kentucky? Right here, 108 in defense, which isn't terrible considering the entire tournament when you get down to lower seeds. But for where they are is very bad. They don't play much defense and not very good at it. That 5 adjusted offense, does 89.4 points a game scored from the SEC in a good tournament and a good conference. Have tournament experience against teams here. This is an elite. Where even is Oakland here? Oakland 0-4 versus tournament teams. Not very good when it comes to decent teams. They've kind of fold under pressure. Have an even worse adjusted defense, honestly, than Kentucky's, which is something. I mean, Kentucky gets it done here. Their offense, I know they've had questions on defense, but their offense is just so good for me. They're so talented. Kentucky, they need to get a good run here. They're such a blue-blooded historical program for the tournament and college basketball in general. They need a win. They need a good run here. I think they get it. I think they have the talent. I think they have the offense to do it. No defense wins championships. Am I going to have Kentucky win the championship? Probably not. But offense can take you pretty far. They have probably one of the best in the entire tournament and entire college basketball. Florida State versus the winner of Boise State, Colorado State, I believe, or Colorado, just in general. Either way, I think Boise State's losing. I don't think this is one of Boise State's better squads, and they burnt me too many times. Colorado is going to win this, or Colorado State, whoever the fuck they're playing. Because there's another one down here, isn't there? Who's the other playing game? No, this is just Colorado in general. Yeah, Colorado's actually a pretty solid squad, actually. I think Florida wins. Florida, what a team! It is really Russian roulette every time you pick this team to win in a betting sense or in just the tournament here as you go on a run. Amazing guard play. That's what's going to have to carry them in this, and I think they can, especially to at least a one win here. Every time you pick Florida State in this tournament, just know you're playing Russian roulette with with that part of the bracket. They can either beat some of the best teams in the country, or they can lose to some of, some pretty really mid teams, honestly. Um, they kind of play up and play down to people. It's a whole thing. They also had their center injured in the conference tournaments in the SEC. Not great, but I think their league guard play at least gets them around past whoever wins this play-in game here, especially if Boise comes out. But yeah, I think Florida advances. Marquette and Western Kentucky. Western Kentucky, I wish. Oh my God. I mean, I love Western Kentucky. They're a fun team to watch, fastest team in college basketball, a great squad. Love that they got here. I should go down to Western Kentucky and see there. Let's refresh me on this. Haven't played any tournament teams actually. Lost to 11 teams, but haven't played any tournament teams. Again, one of the better one of the better defenses and kind of adjusted defenses in their area and their seeding. I would really love nothing more than Western Kentucky to knock off Marquette. It'd be really funny for Shaka to have that happen, have another early exit here. Um, I just think Marquette's going to win. For some reason, Marquette seems like the team that'll fuck with the Western Kentucky too much in their fast tempo. I think Marquette kind of stifles Western Kentucky's kind of entire game plan here. Marquette's obviously the more talented team. But beyond that, another thing that really concerns me is that there's analysts picking a 15 seed to beat a 2 seed here. Anytime someone tells you to pick a 15 or 16 seed on an analyst site or people, all the public's taking it, do not take that 15 seed to win. I'm sure they can make it a game here for a second. It's going to probably be one of the better 15-2 games. But don't pick this. Don't trust this team to win the tournament for you or win this game for you. When think back to all the 16 seeds to the 15 seed upsets that you've ever seen. UMBC playing the best team in the country, not a very good team. That really shouldn't have. I don't remember if they should have been there or not. No one thought it was going to happen. No one thought a chance in hell that it was going to happen. Didn't really think UMBC was a good team. They win. FDU, Fairleigh Dickinson, probably the worst team in the tournament. That shouldn't have even been there because they didn't win their tournament, but there's a conflict with the people who did. Long story. They win against a very good Purdue team with the best player in college basketball. Oral Roberts. Who the fuck did they? Ohio State. Ohio State, a very talented Ohio State team. Again, that was the only one where you kind of could see because they had the highest scoring player in college basketball. But no one expected that either. No one picked that. Then we have St. Peter's. Probably the worst 15 seed on paper that you've seen coming into a tournament in a while. The year they won and beat Kentucky actually. Um, a very talented Kentucky team nonetheless, especially like draft wise. Yeah, 15v2 and the 16v1. If you're gonna pick one, damn near say to yourself, what is the least likely one I can see happening here, and go with that one. Especially for the 15 seeds. Whatever you think, oh, this is the worst 15 seed I've seen in a while here. This no shot this happens. This is a horrible team. How do they even get a 15 seed? They should be a 16. That's the team you want to be worried about for playing. It's just I love Western Kentucky. It has all the right signs, and that's why it's wrong for me. It's because I don't trust the hype here. I don't think Marquette, especially if Kolek is back, I don't see Marquette or Western Kentucky being able to beat them. Purdue versus Montana State or Grambling. I believe Montana State will win that. I believe no, that's not the game going on right now, but I believe Montana State will win that. Montana State, other than maybe Stetson, I think is honestly the best 16 seed. I think Montana State's damn near better than some 15 seeds. I like watching them play. They're a good team. I like watching them win the Big Sky. Great game versus Montana to get into the tournament or have a shot to get into the tournament, I guess. But yeah, great team. I think Montana State's going to play Purdue. I think Purdue will win though. Just too good for either of those teams. But I say if there's a 16v1, watch for Montana State. A lot of people write them off. A lot of people say, oh, Purdue can't lose 2 years in a row to a 16 seeds. I know it probably won't happen. Almost definitely won't happen, but it could happen. And if there's a 16 seed that I like to knock off a 1 seed, it's probably Montana State, unless Stetson just has a lights out game versus UConn. Which, given their repeat, some superstition stuff could go down with them. Next here we've got what do we got here? Utah State and TCU at the 9 game. I like I like TCU here. Again, Big 12 bias here, just me personally. I like the TCU Horned Frogs. They could get past Utah State. I try to limit my Mountain West exposure. I know they're pretty good this year and they got a lot of bids. I have some teams that I have winning from the Mountain West, of course, but I'm trying to limit my Mountain West exposure just in case, as usual, shit hits the fan with them. TCU, great conference. Has some up and downs in the conference, but has some pretty good wins in that conference as well. Overall, just a solid team. Are they a great team? Not really, but I think they can scrape by for a win against a pretty good Utah State team. McNeese and Gonzaga. Another 5v12 upset here. Do I have any other 5v12s? Okay, I've got James Madison. Yeah. But one of these is gonna happen. But McNeese, another team like James Madison. Let's hit the spreadsheet. Where are you? Coming out of the Southland Championship, another 30-win team. This team, like their neighbors on the spreadsheet here, win quite a bit. 1-0 versus the only tournament team, which I can't really remember who it was, but 1-0, over 80 points scored a game, an electric offense just like James Madison. Again, probably a pretty bad strength of schedule. I understand that. But I believe in McNeese to be able to put out a very solid performance, do what they do best, win, and put out an offensive clinic. Gonzaga, I know, almost a blue blood at this point, like an honorary blue blood, even though they're not included with the usual group of cool kids. But Gonzaga's on a real down year this year. How they got a 5 seed, surprising to me. I thought they'd be like a 7 or something, honestly, or 6 at least. Especially since St. Mary's is on the same line, which they got beat by twice. But I digress. Gonzaga have Nimhart from the transfer from Creighton. Really just been a bad year for them. They've had some losses against like St. Mary's, but just some other questionable losses. I don't Gonzaga for me just I know they're usually good for a win, but they seem like a disappointing year. And again, like almost like Wisconsin, I think they capitalized a disappointing year with a disappointing finish in the tournament. Next, Kansas versus Sanford. Kind of a trendy upset pick, starting to be anyways, because Kansas has two question marks of probably their two best players and All Americans there. Um, with Renfro, or I'd say Renfro, but Dickinson and McCullough, I believe. Hopefully I said that name right, or I said the right name at all. But Kansas, another blue blood team here. I know they had that very disappointing loss in the Big 12 conference tournament to Cincinnati. I don't know what's happening there, but I believe at least definitely Dickinson will be back. Great presence to have back. Great confidence boost to have back. I believe everybody's going to be back though. He seemed a little less confident about that part, but I think everybody should be back at least, especially for the second round. But for the first round, even if they are limited somewhat and kind of subbed out more often, I think Kansas probably got the best coach in college basketball too. I think Kansas just kind of out talents and wills their way into a second round as they usually do in the tournament. Even with probably one of the worst seeds in a while here, which sounds crazy since they have a 4 seed, but still. South Carolina and Oregon. Whew, what a game. Oregon have a very rocky and overall pretty bad year, honestly, by Oregon basketball standards. Um, have an amazing run in the Pac-12 conference tournament to get themselves the auto bid in the 11 seed to have the honor of playing South Carolina. A horrible game here. I don't really know where to go. On one hand, I don't really trust Oregon despite the run here. They kind of give me Georgetown vibes from 2 years ago, where they make this cool little run. Everyone's kind of high on them. Let's beat South Carolina, which is kind of a slept-on team, just like Colorado was back then. And then they get lit up as soon as they get in. I know Oregon, when they usually do this little sneak into the tournament, they usually get a round or two, just because they will themselves into getting a win or two. But those teams, from what I remember, have more talent on them than this team does um, just in terms of like raw talent. I think South Carolina is a solid enough team. I'm not huge on South Carolina by any means. I don't think they're an amazing team, but I think they're an okay team. They've got some okay wins under their belt, as is Oregon, of course. But I think that the whole Pac-12 honestly is a little more fluky. It's a little more susceptible to getting some wins like that for Oregon, as to the South Carolina competition throughout the year. I trust South Carolina to survive and advance here. Creighton and Akron. Akron getting in and out of the MAC. MAC always a tough conference to be in. Creighton, not the team I would have wanted to see as a 14 seed in Akron here, but nonetheless, I think Creighton is going to advance here. Got some amazing wins. Obviously, fucking, great clinic of a game when they beat UConn earlier in the year here. Obviously, uh, disappointing conference tournament there for Creighton that they didn't win, obviously. But I don't hold that against them very much. Creighton's been a real hit or miss team sometimes this year, but I feel like they lock in for the tournament most of the time, at least getting one win, even with their worst teams, honestly, like a 9 seeds. But Creighton overall just a great program. They've got an amazing, very experienced, kind of talented all-star for a couple of them team here. Baylor Shireman's a great player to watch, especially in March, and they've got the big man down low, whatever his German name, Cockburners. I can't remember how to pronounce his name. Solid squad. This team's gonna be hard to beat forever. Team comes up with them throughout their tournament. I think Creighton's a very good team. They're kind of getting slept on and disrespected here. As well as if you follow analytics and historical trends from the tournament, there's only a certain amount of teams that, historically speaking, if you go back, a couple decades and collect data of champions, can win the tournament still. And Creighton is one of them, and is one of the better one of them, and the healthier one of them. There's only a handful of teams that meet the criteria, historically speaking, to win the tournament, which has held true for quite a bit here with UConn and before that Kansas, and so it's pretty good if you believe in that stuff. And yeah, I think Creighton's a very good team here. I think they're kind of getting looked over by virtually everybody, and I like them to kind of do something here. Texas and either Virginia or Colorado State. I think it will be Colorado State. Virginia, in my opinion, I have no idea how they got into the tournament over a team like Indiana State, over a team like St. John's, or even over a team like Seton Hall, really. If you've seen Virginia play, you know what I'm talking about. They're the most boring fucking team you've ever seen play college basketball in your goddamn life. Traditional, pretty tough defensive team here. Okay, but did pretty poor in the season. Again, wondering how they got in over those three teams I just mentioned. I don't think they get into the tournament here. I think Colorado State beats them. Colorado State's not a horrible team, not a great team either, though. A solid, sturdy Mountain West team as they usually are. I don't know. Huh. I don't know. I think, yeah, I think Texas wins. Texas been kind of disappointing here for them. Been weird. They have some good pieces though from last year's run. They have who was it, Max? Am I saying the right? They got the guy from Oral Roberts on their team, who's obviously not his first rodeo in the tournament or college basketball in general. I think I'm not thrilled with Texas, but I think they get into the second round. Then the last game of the first round here, Tennessee versus the old friends of everybody, Cinderella again at the 15 seed, St. Peter's. I believe in Tennessee. St. Peter's, I just don't see it this year. Again, nobody saw it that year either, so I'll give them that. Play a similar style of basketball from that original run there, but don't have the same squad. I don't think it's as good or as memorable of a squad either. Um, I just don't see it this year. I know Tennessee is always fluky in the conference and the tournament. I mean, and they had that bad loss to Mississippi State in the conference tournament. Very bad loss. But I think this is probably one of the more talented and better squads that Tennessee has had. Again, a very good defense from Tennessee as usual, with a little more offense than you usually see from a Tennessee team overall. Again, they've obviously had hiccups. Just going back to the spreadsheet here for Tennessee as a 2 seed. 11-8 versus, I mean, tournament teams. One of the top 10 strength of schedules, one of the best defenses in college basketball. I know they always look good on paper, but they always fumble, which I'll keep in mind going forward here. But I like Tennessee to advance with relatively no issues. Let's go back up to the East for round of 32 here. UConn and Northwestern. I know Northwestern is an annoying team to play for a lot of people sometimes, um, and they've got some good wins against some very good teams, other 1 seeds. But I believe in UConn to advance here. UConn just such a good team. Other than being the #1 overall seed and heavy favorites for a reason, just every reason. You look on paper, you look at their record, what they've done. There's analytics as far as go back to the spreadsheet here with the best adjusted offense and the top 15 adjusted defense. I mean, points per game, very competent record versus tournament teams. A deep roster of scorers here. We're winning the Big East championship, both outright and in the tournament. I mean, this team, it's just when you get down to it, other than the fact that they're repeating champions and people have a bias against that, there's no real reason to pick this team, pick against this team. They have the historical tendencies to win this. I mean, arguably a better squad than they had last year and a better seeding than they had last year as well. I mean, it's just I mean, it's going to be UConn. 4v5, always a fun matchup here. San Diego State and Auburn. I don't see it for San Diego State to get back to the run they had last year. Auburn, I know SEC team, it can be a little fluky sometimes, but especially in the tournament. But I love Auburn. Auburn is a very good team on paper, analytically speaking as well. This team plays great. They play well with each other. They've obviously coming off an SEC tournament championship. Um, I mean, this is arguably one of the more talented and better teams in college basketball, honestly. A 4 seed almost feels a bit low for an Auburn team who you could argue is probably better than some 3 seeds or fours, or definitely some 3 seeds, but some four or 2 seeds as well. I think Auburn gets past San Diego State almost relatively easily here, in my prediction, and then goes on to play UConn, which really tough matchup and really poor management for had they been in another region here. I'm kind of revealing who I'm picking here, but had they been in another region here, I would have loved to take Auburn for a much deeper run here. Next, we got BYU and Illinois. I will be taking BYU. BYU, super slept on team, very good squad, very solid squad, very good performance record. BYU versus Illinois. I know Illinois has been playing terrific basketball, winning the Big 12 or Big 10 here just recently against some good teams. Illinois, though, just I can never trust them for a deep tournament run. I think they'll beat Morehead State relatively easily. I think they run into a Big 12 team like BYU. They start getting some problems. They, by all means, could beat BYU. Definitely not saying that they couldn't, but BYU, just something about them. I feel like they're due for a run here. I think they've got a solid under overlooked squad. This is a good way to get some leverage on other people in your bracket too, who definitely going to have Illinois come out of this cluster. Yeah. Next, we got Iowa State and Washington State. I like Iowa State here to get the 1 and 2, still alive in this region. Iowa State, just another kind of disrespected team by even getting the 2 seed, honestly, Big 12 tournament champions. Very good, stifling defensive team, pretty good offensive team as well. Washington State, a solid team. I don't think they're anything special, though. I don't think they're up to play up to the level of an Iowa State. I think Iowa State, I don't know, they've been a little fluky with a lot worse teams in the tournament in the past, but I think this is kind of their year to put something together. Let's get on to the West. I'll have North Carolina advance. Again, Michigan State, a really fluky team, almost to the point where I wonder how they get into the tournament or how they get a 9 seed. I know it's Izzo. I know it's kind of a historical rivalry game with these two. But I like North Carolina's got an amazing team. They've got Baycott, obviously still there. They've got amazing guard play. This is a 1 seed for a reason. I know they lost to NC State in the conference tournament championship, but they won the ACC outright, I believe. North Carolina, a very dangerous team, very good team. I think they could do something in the series tournament for once in a while. I mean, obviously they're a very historic program. Next, we have the 4v5 here, Alabama and St. Mary's. Kind of defensive fundamentalist team versus high octane, coming at you, offensive powerhouse in Alabama here. Clash of the styles. And they say defense does win championships. And sometimes it does. A lot of times it does. But Alabama, despite their recent struggles, give me them to the Sweet 16 to set up a Bama North Carolina matchup there. I like Alabama this year in the tournament for a couple games at least here. Again, I'm more of an offensive minded person than I am a defensive minded person in general. That's why I'm rolling with the, roll tide. But it's just, yeah, I see something. I think Alabama's going to put it together here. Kind of that Florida loss, I believe, is who they lost to. Again, no problem with losing to Florida. Florida can beat the best of teams and lose to the worst of the teams. That's how they roll. Um, so no problems there. Especially I still believe they had their center for at least some of the game. Um, Yeah, I think Alabama beats St. Mary's team, who's always been solid, but never really blown anybody's socks off, especially when it comes to tournament time. New Mexico and Baylor. Um, Baylor Bears versus the Logos. I can't remember what the fuck how to say their thing or what they were called. I like New Mexico here. Baylor been a fluky team all year. Doesn't really play defense all that much. Obviously a very good offensive team, which kind of goes against what I was just saying with Bama and how I like teams. New Mexico. I know Mountain West, everything how they perform in the tournament usually, other than San Diego State last year. Obviously, they always have one good team. Um, New Mexico, amazing guard play. I love watching these guys play. They're coming in hot. They're due for a run. This team has been playing amazing basketball recently. I think they get to the Sweet 16 here. Nevada and Arizona. Can we get the Mountain West rivalry, kind of going here? I don't think we can. Arizona is due for a deep run after disappointing runs the last few years here. After losing to a 15 seed, they're coming back. I think Caleb Love is a great tournament player as well. I think Arizona, with their elite offense, makes it past Nevada, who's kind of a solid team, but doesn't really excel or dominate the way Arizona does in an aspect of a game necessarily. I like Arizona to win in advance here. I think their offense just gets it done. Houston and Nebraska. Do I let the Asian Steph Curry have his little Cinderella run with Nebraska over Houston here? I don't. I think Houston is an amazing team. I think Houston's a great team. Houston's always a solid and a tough team, especially when it comes to tournament time. No matter what happened in their regular season, Houston is going to beat Nebraska. Unfortunately, Nebraska, great team. Don't have any. I don't see them matching up with a team as good as Houston. I think they can beat a team like Texas A&M, a mid-level team like that. But when it comes to play the big dogs, I think Nebraska will put up a great game. It could even win, honestly. It's March, anything can happen. But I think 9 times out of 10, Houston wins that matchup. Duke v. Dukes here. J. Madison Dukes versus the Duke Blue Devils. 4v12 matchup. This is an interesting matchup. Duke, obviously blue blood. They've always got a more experienced squad than they usually do. Pretty solid program, obviously. James Madison, though, I think despite the kind of hesitance because they're a popular upset pick, I think James Madison makes a run here to the Sweet 16. Duke, I think gets past Vermont just because of how Vermont's done in the tournament and not really shown me much. But I think Duke runs into a team as high octane, as hot, as I mean, just all around good, honestly, as James Madison, and they just kind of struggle here. I see this team giving James Duke all they can handle and then some. Kentucky and NC State here. We're gonna ride with the Blue Bloods into the Sweet 16 with Kentucky. I like Kentucky here. I like their offense. I think they're a talented squad. I think this is where NC State's kind of fizzles out here. They have the amazing run. They have an upset in the March Madness over Texas Tech. And then I think they fizzle out because they try to go with Kentucky and they try to, out might Kentucky and Kentucky just kind of uses their offense. And if you go to spreadsheet here, Kentucky, their offensive stats, I mean, fifth, top five in offensive adjusted efficiency, 89.4 points, which, if I remember correctly, is one of the highest in the entire tournament. Pretty battle tested against tournament teams. A pretty good record in the SEC. I believe they have the highest 3-point percentage as a team as well. This team, I'm big on Kentucky this year, despite having some hiccups for sure, but I like Kentucky and the kind of route they've been given here. Next, I like Florida with the upset here over Marquette. I know what I said about Marquette not losing to the 15 seed and being a solid team. They are, but they can also lose to some pretty bad teams. I've seen that firsthand in person. Um, Florida, again, Russian roulette, click the revolver over for the second time and shoot the gun, right? When you're picking them here. But I think Florida, they can handle themselves against Colorado State or Boise. Then I think they play up to Marquette. I think they give them a lot to handle here with their guard play. And I think I could see a buzzer beater happen in this game for Florida. I think they get by to set up an SEC matchup with Kentucky here. Next, you got Purdue and TCU. I like Purdue here. Again, TCU, solid team. No disrespect to them whatsoever. I know Purdue's fluky as well in the tournament. I think Purdue just kind of got set up with a good route here, unless they lose to the Montana State or something. TCU, not an amazing team. I mean, they're a solid team. They are what they are. They win games that they're supposed to win most of the times, and they lose the games they're supposed to lose. They haven't done anything to give me any reason to pick them over a team like Purdue, especially an improved team like Purdue from last year and coming off a revenge tour. Um, I don't see TCU being able to keep up very long with Purdue. Kansas and McNeese, another Cinderella here maybe. As much as I want to, I'm gonna ride with the old reliable with Kansas here. I like Kansas. I've always been a Kansas guy. I'm not a Kansas fan. I don't go to Kansas or anything, but I've always been a Kansas fan as far as picking them in the tournament. They've treated me well the majority of the time. Obviously, every Blue Blood's had their fair share of debauchery and bullshit. But I like Kansas this year, especially in this game if they're healthy with all their people. Their bench is pretty non-existent, other than me Kansas players, and they're okay at basketball. Um, if they have their full squad here, especially if they're feeling good for this game and ready to go, I think it's almost too much for McNeese to just handle a raw, talented fucking powerhouse that Kansas is. Creighton in South Carolina. Again, I said I wasn't very big on South Carolina. I love Creighton though. I think Creighton is one of the best teams in this tournament, despite being a 3 seed, just because of kind of how they played in the tournament. And, there's a reason there's a 3 seed. They're a little risky, but I think they play well in the tournament time. I think they lock in here. They've got a team. This is really their last year to make a deep impact on the tournament with this squad. A team. I mean, who knows if they recruit well, transfer well, but with the squad and how things look. This is kind of their last run for a tournament team here, and I think they're going to capitalize and lock in here. And they've got a pretty good route to do so. Two teams in Texas and Tennessee that are really fluky and I don't like in the tournament and have not been playing well recently. And Texas obviously has been fluky all year. I like Tennessee here. Again, I don't like picking Tennessee this deep into a tournament run. I think the path just kind of worked out for them of how the cookies crumbled, so to say. I mean, it just kind of is how it is, right? Um, I think they beat St. Peter's and they get a fluky Texas team who Texas has never proven to me that they can beat a team this much better than them by any means. They've gotten a couple of decent wins over the year and they're battle tested from the Big 12, obviously, and experience more or less. It's just, I think Tennessee plays them well. I think Texas doesn't rise to the occasion like they usually don't. UConn and Auburn, I really, God, I want to pick Auburn here, but I'm gonna. I mean, you have to go with UConn. They honestly, other than the fact that they're again, like I said earlier, other than the fact that they're a repeating conference or tournament winner, there's nothing, there's nothing in this team that you can say, oh yeah, okay, let's pick against them. They're just that good. And Auburn, if they were a different 4 seed in a different tournament and a different region, they'd probably be in the Elite Eight. BYU or Iowa State. Very interesting Big 12 matchup here. God, honestly, I knew what I wanted coming into this video and when I was doing the rest of the regions, but I flip my mind on this game so much. I could see BYU beating them. I could see Iowa State winning like they're supposed to. We're going with Iowa State. I mean, I know it's shocking, but Iowa State, to me, I love picking the Big 12 conference or the Big 12 tournament winners to do well in the tournament. They usually do. I know it's chalky, but I think this region is set up to be chalk, to be quite frank with you. Alabama and North Carolina here. We got the what is this fucking region again? The West. A very good game here. I like this. I think North Carolina is due for a deep tournament run to the Elite Eight at least. Alabama just too fluky for me. They don't play enough defense for North Carolina. I think North Carolina plays good defense. I think they'll kick Alabama's ass on the other side of the court. I think this is North Carolina. This is a good matchup for North Carolina. New Mexico and Arizona. Arizona get into a Sweet 16 here, kind of redeeming themselves a little bit as far as, being able to win something here. I think this is where Caleb Love unfortunately kind of ends his tour with Arizona. I'm gonna pick the upset. I'm gonna pick the Cinderella with New Mexico here. They're gonna be my Cinderella to the Elite Eight. I like them to come out and play New Mexico or North Carolina. Again, New Mexico, such a talented team. They're a solid team. They're just a good, solid basketball team, and they've been playing so well recently. I think they can beat Clemson. I think they can beat Baylor. I think they can keep that momentum going and will themselves past a very good Arizona team in offense. Next, you got Houston and James Madison, and in the South region here, this team. I mean, ooh, I love both of them. I really do. I really love both of these teams. Houston doesn't lose to these. Like for some reason, even though James Madison's not your typical, mid-major bullshit team, Houston just stifles these teams for some reason. They play great defense. They always have, always will. Got such a talented squad. I think they just stifle James Madison. I think their fuse kind of extinguishes here from their massive win streak. I think Houston advances. Kentucky and Florida. Another very interesting matchup here. Russian roulette for both of these fucking teams, honestly. Florida, very possible to play up to Kentucky's skill level. I think both of these teams are very talented. I think both of these teams have good offenses. I think Kentucky has a better offense, though, and I think Kentucky's even more talented. And with the injury to Florida's center, I don't think that they have the physicality to play and the skill and the talent to play with Florida for the whole time. So I think Florida or Kentucky gets to the Elite Eight to play Houston. Next, we got the Midwest here. I know I've had every one seed come out into the Elite Eight, something that usually doesn't happen, and there's a reason. As much as it pains me, because I really want Purdue to, at least get one. It'd be kind of cool to see. But Kansas, I think at this point they make it to the Sweet 16. Everyone's fully healthy. They've got Dickinson. I think he matches up incredibly well with Edie. Actually, he's a great tournament player too. He always turns it on for some, even when he's at Michigan. He always turns it on. I think Kansas, just the more blue-blooded veteran team here, or veteran as far as like program and coach and everything. They know how to play these games. When they get deep into the tournament, that's when they turn it on. They know how to fucking win. No matter if they're down 15 to North Carolina in the goddamn, tournament championship or not, they find a way to win these games. I think they've got two All-Americans leading the way at this point that should be healthy, hopefully. It's really kind of risky play with Kansas once you get past the first round, even at the first round, based on health dependency. But it's always how these things go. And it's got the 3-2 matchup with Creighton, Tennessee. I like Creighton. Again, I've been big on Creighton. I think Tennessee's always fluky. I think they get a little run here, get a little momentum. Good for them. I think Creighton is just a buzzsaw for a lot of these teams. They out offense Tennessee by a good margin. Very solid defensive team too, especially with Burner or whatever how the fuck you say their center's name. Very very good. I think Creighton. Again, I'm high on Creighton. I've seen them play in person before. They're very fundamental, very good team. We got 1-2 matchup, a little chalky here. UConn and Iowa State. As much as I want to keep rolling with the Cyclones, my boys here, I've got to pick the one seed into the Final Four here with UConn. To me, it pains me again. I want UConn. I want a reason to pick against UConn. I just don't have one. They just, other than a couple teams in this tournament, they haven't really lost. And I mean, there's no reason. There's no reason to pick against UConn, especially this early. I know everyone's picking UConn to the tournament or winning them throughout the entire thing. And it's pretty stereotypical, but you don't want to make the mistake of betting against these guys and losing out on those points either, as far as the leverage play goes. So they get to the Final Four, as UConn is almost a blue blood, basically, at this point. Then you got the 1v11 with New North Carolina and New Mexico. Very interesting matchup if we were to get to this point. I think NC kind of sets up for the 1v1 matchup here in the Final Four with UConn, though. I like North Carolina to make a deep run. I think they're kind of getting a little disrespected, even by me, by saying Iowa State should have been a one seed. But North Carolina, just a very experienced team, a very good team. They know how to play deep in the tournament, like a lot of these blue bloods do. I think they get back to a deep tournament run here, and I think this is really the last year for some of their guys and their team as a whole and their structure. I think they win. Houston and Kentucky, the 1v3, very interesting matchup. Elite offense and elite defense coming out head to head here. You look at Houston, second best defense, only behind Iowa State actually in the entire country. An elite offense too, as far as scoring potential in 17. Very tough schedule they played in the Big 12, being the outright champions, but not the tournament champions, as you see there. A 30-win team versus a team like Kentucky. Very, very respectable team. High powered, high octane, very battle tested as well, but don't have the resume that Houston does. Houston always does well in the tournament. I know it's 3-1 seeds. We might have to adjust something here, honestly. I don't like how this is lining up. But I like, God damn, this tournament is just something else, isn't it? Coming out here in Kansas and Creighton. Um, Again, this is a matchup. I like both these teams, honestly, but just given Kansas and how they played this year, I think Creighton just narrowly ekes past Kansas to get into the Final Four. I believe in Creighton this year. I think they're the high. I think yeah. I think they get into the Final Four. I think this is a deep run for them. This is the run that last year was denied them by what was it, San Diego State or whatever. Um, I think this is where they get over the hump. They get to this deep run that they've been looking for in the last year of their squad, really, of Baylor and their center. I'm gonna stop saying his name because I fuck it up every time. Looking at his Final Four, I mean, you just 3-1 seeds. How often does that happen? You want at least 2 1 seeds, but you want and a 2 or 3, but you want one deep Cinderella run here. And you look at it, and we scroll back down to North or New Mexico here, and it's just like, can they beat North Carolina? Can they beat a North Carolina team? Is the question I'm asking myself in the head. And I keep looking at it. I look at another certain 11 seed that just did that very thing. We're gonna flip here. We're gonna put New Mexico into the Final Four as a Cinderella team, as our higher seed, making a deep run here. New Mexico have been playing amazing. They deserve a run like this. They've been, I mean, to keep the momentum going, to keep the story going. I think I think this is the Cinderella. I think this is this year's March Madness sweetheart, playing a very tough game in the Final Four with UConn here. So now we're at the Final Four here, almost to Glendale, or I guess they're playing Glendale, but whatever. UConn, New Mexico, and Houston and Creighton. 2-1s versus a 3-11. Starting over here with the West v East matchup. UConn and New Mexico. A hard tournament. 11. Honestly, thinking back to Butler all those years ago, really one of the highest seeds that you can even realistically put into the tournament championship here. Do I see a Gordon Hayward run from them? I don't know. UConn. I think they get back to the championship. I mean, I think it's set up for them to do this. I think it's a good route for them to do this. This team is just so well put together. Honestly, better than the team that made the run last year. I think they're locked in. They're focused on what their goals are. I think they do it. Then moving over to Creighton and Houston here, a great two fantastic teams, two good defensive teams. You go, where's Creighton? 24 and 12 with adjusted defense and offense. A pretty tough schedule, just like Houston. Not as tough, but relatively. Arguably a better offense, obviously. Not as battle tested as a Houston, but done fairly well against their tournament team kind of schedule here and beating obviously UConn, which is the #1 team in the nation. A somewhat deep team. I mean, Creighton. I think this is where Houston's usual run ends here. I don't think they get over the hump this year. I think we set up for a Big East, the two best teams in the Big East, in my opinion, championship in Creighton and UConn. The 1v3 matchup in the championship, UConn versus Creighton. Do they repeat? They got it all the way here. Do they repeat? I don't think they do. Look. I know Florida did it. I know IU did it all the way back in the day, way before my day. Um, Do they give me the vibes of an IU team or a Florida team? They do. If any team can repeat in recent memory, I'd say it's this team that has the potential to do it more so than really any other team I've seen. And since Florida, obviously. And I'd imagine that will be the future, true in the future as for whoever wins this tournament as well. Creighton, though, obviously have already snagged a win over UConn. UConn's obviously beat them, from what I remember as well. So 1v1 tiebreaker in the coming back to the Big East tiebreaker here in the championship. I think this is Creighton's kind of destiny year for whatever reason. Is that a bad take? Probably. You know how March is. They could probably lose in the first round of Akron, and my entire bracket's gonna be busted, and no one will ever watch my March Madness videos ever again. Creighton just for some reason gives me the vibes of a deep tournament run team and a champion here. They meet the analytics historically speaking. They've got the prime team, the senior and the upperclassmen leadership from their best players and two amazing players, and really good March Madness personalities in Baylor especially. Very fun player, very fun team to watch. I think they get it done here in their last hurrah with this squad that they put together here. And I think they get it done in a very tough but manageable tournament run here, ending against the best team in college basketball with UConn. How many total points will be scored in the game? I predict both teams to score about 80 in this game, honestly, given how these teams go. Probably a score of like, I'd say 89 to 85. So a total of about 174. I know pretty high powered for a college basketball game, even if it goes to overtime. But I'd say that's probably where I'm going. I know it's probably a little too high, but fuck it, it doesn't really matter at this point. Almost never comes down to a tiebreaker score for any bracket. So yeah, that's my official March Madness predictions here. All of the picks here. I'll scroll down to give you. You can pause it wherever you can see my picks here. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed my March Madness video here. Good luck to Creighton. Good luck to you guys in your pools and your brackets. Hope you were entertained or got a second opinion on some of your thoughts you were gonna, some of your picks you were thinking about with me. And yeah, best of luck to you in March.